With so many great new cars on the Australian new car market, it can be pretty difficult finding the right one for you and your family.
But that's where we come in. At Drive, we've assembled the best of the best across all key segments to help give you the greatest chance of finding the perfect one.
So we're here again with close to 80 cars over 22 segments, 10 judges and more than 3 weeks of testing.
Welcome to Drive Car of the Year 2022.
Drive Car of the Year is a massive undertaking, with the categories chosen to reflect the most in-demand vehicles representing all the popular brands in the Australian new car market. Australian buyers love SUVs and dual cabs, but there's a wide variety of segments where buyers need the best advice on how to spend their money when the time comes to buy a new car. Across those segments, we get down to nearly 90 finalists, ranging from categories like Best Small Car, right up to Best Upper Large SUV and Best Off-Road Dual Cab. Drive Car of the Year testing starts long before our final week, where the finalists come face to face. In the 12 months leading up to Drive Car of the Year, the Drive editorial team cycles through hundreds of cars in both Melbourne and Sydney, with testing taking place on-road, on racetracks and at four-wheel drive facilities around Australia. Much of our testing, indeed the most important, is undertaken on the same roads and in the same conditions that Australians experience when they drive their new car. Our mission is to study and dissect the intricacies that new cars have, not just to find the right new vehicle for you, but also to recommend the smartest model grade within that range for you to buy. We value the rigour of the testing and the integrity of the independence of Drive Car of the Year.
We don't just compare the cars to one another, but we test them based on their judging criteria, which include a range of things such as engine performance, standard features and pricing, to name a few.
And we test the real-world practicality of every car here too.
And we've got a racetrack to assist with safety systems and performance testing. Despite few cars being genuinely focused track cars, we use a racetrack for much of our testing for a variety of reasons. The track is a safe, closed environment for us to capture all the video footage and photos we need to go with the stories, but it's also the perfect place for us to set up a standard swerve and avoid test, as well as testing 100 to 0 braking on the same stretch of tarmac in a controlled environment. A critical element of our testing is the real-world road loop, where we drive each segment back to back over the same public roads, potholes, washouts and all, to assess how each finalist behaves on typical Australian urban roads. From these tests, we then crunch the numbers with standard features, value, running costs and warranties all taken into account. Judges then vote anonymously on each segment, and from our first week of testing, we had a variety of winners comprising opposite ends of the market, like the Hyundai i30N or Ford Mustang, through to a Toyota Kluger or Kia Carnival.
Here are the category winners for the track portion of our testing. From here, only the brand new cars from this year will be considered as the overall 2022 Drive Car of the Year winner. Don't forget, we've still got electric vehicles and off-road testing to go.
And of course, we need to test these vehicles in their natural habitat. So we're in Lithgow to test the best utes and four-wheel drives on-road as well as off-road.
It started raining on day one of our off-road testing, and it just kept raining right throughout. It made road driving tricky and off-road tracks even more challenging than they otherwise might have been. Despite that inclement weather, the judges slogged it out in the rain and mud to find the best of the best, which for the first time included dual winners. The Isuzu D-Max and Mazda BT50 sharing the award for Best Dual Cab. Drive Car of the Year continues to include more electric vehicles as the market expands and more electric vehicles become available across a range of different segments. The added challenge beyond regular testing is access to charging infrastructure, which allows the judging team to keep the cars topped up regardless of how much distance they cover in testing. The highlight for electric vehicles in 2022 is the way in which they are moving away from being something of a novelty simply for being electric. Now, practicality, clever design, packaging, and of course range is all coming to the fore, in addition to the fact that there's more and more body styles to choose from. In electric terms, the future looks brighter than ever. To be considered as a finalist for the overall Drive Car of the Year award, a vehicle must be new for 2022. It's why winners who back up from 2021 can't contend for the overall award this year, which left the judging team with the Kia Sportage, Toyota Kluger, Volkswagen Golf, Hyundai Ioniq 5, Hyundai i30N, Skoda Octavia and the Porsche Taycan. The judges then pick apart the data and specifications to find out which new vehicle moves the game forward the most for the most Australian new car buyers. Standouts were the Hyundai Ioniq 5 for its refreshing take on the EV segment, stylish design and engaging drive experience, the Toyota Kluger for its incredibly efficient hybrid drivetrain and long list of standard inclusions, and the Kia Sportage, a high-quality entrant from Kia in a segment that is incredibly popular in Australia. And from that high-quality group of finalists, the judges have been tasked with coming up with one overall winner. It's a bit of a cliche, but there can be only one, and we have gotten down to our overall winner for 2022 Drive Car of the Year. The judges have taken into account the fact that this vehicle moves the game forward the most for the most Australian new car buyers. It's no easy task to win the overall award, and yet here it is, the new Kia Sportage, our Drive Car of the Year for 2022. This brand has done fantastically well of late, and it's two on the trot, remember, because of course our 2021 Drive Car of the Year was the Kia Sorento. Who can argue with medium SUVs? Last year it was a large SUV, this year it's medium. These segments are the segments that Australian buyers are spending the most time researching and the most amount of their hard-earned money on. These are, and we say this a lot, the default family vehicles for Australians in 2022. Now, it is two on the trot for Kia. If I'd have told you 10 or 15 years ago that brands like Kia and stablemate Hyundai would have vehicles littered throughout the Drive Car of the Year Awards testing program, vying for wins in segments, but also even as finalists, you might have thought I was a little bit mad. And yet, here we are in 2022 with a second win in the overall award on the trot for Kia with the new Sportage. Let's take now a closer look at why the new Kia Sportage is our pick as the 2022 Drive Car of the Year. In such a high quality field, it's to be expected that the judging team had a difficult task in front of it, and the votes went right down to the wire. But in an extremely tight contest, the Kia Sportage came out on top in a very high quality top three, followed by Toyota Kluger, Hyundai Ioniq 5, and then Skoda Octavia, Porsche Taycan, Hyundai i30N and the Volkswagen Golf. The judges really liked the quality of the Kia Sportage cabin. Now obviously the one that I'm sitting in right now is a higher spec model, but you can go to Drive.com.au and read Rob's review of the base manual, and even that vehicle, we had a lot of fun driving the manual mind you, even that vehicle still feels like really good value for money. I mentioned at the beginning that there's a really solid spread of pricing, and that's very true of the Sportage range. There really is something for everybody. But when you sit in a higher grade model like we are now, there really is a lot to like about this cabin. Two huge screens, they're contoured, they face the driver, they're focused on the driver. The judges have spoken about and noted this dual level control system here that switches between heating and ventilation and then your navigation and infotainment controls. The screens are visible in any light, so I also think that's key. The other factor that the judges really like is the integration of two things. Clever storage, so cup holders and storage bins in places like this. And the second thing is the lack of over-the-top switchgear. Now that central control panel helps a lot because there's a lot of functionality in there in quite a small space. But also if you look at the switches on the steering wheel and the switches that are here next to the gear selection dial in this center console area, it's really neatly laid out and it's not a complex cabin to get to know and to understand. So in short, regardless of which model grade you choose, it's high quality, it's comfortable, and most importantly for family buyers, it's functional. Now, if you grew up in the 70s or the 80s, or in fact even in the early 90s, you'll remember what it was like as a kid in the second row of the family car. I remember in the mid 80s, my mum had like a 5 or a 6 year old BMW 318, and it had about this much leg space. It was tiny. And now we as judges get into the back of these cars and we start getting disappointed, I guess is the right way of saying it, if it doesn't have certain things that we expect. Passenger cars really have, and of course this is an SUV, but this replaces the medium and the large sedan in the Australian family buying guide. And you know, when you think of how far these vehicles have come in the last decade or so, it's incredible. So on that note, you're sitting in the second row of the Kia Sportage. The seat is comfortable. That's my driving position. I've got plenty of room. I'm not too upright. The actual seat itself is excellent. You've got USB ports on the back of the seats. You've got somewhere for an iPad to sit or a tablet of some kind. You've got a takeaway bag hook, door pockets. The other factor worth noting is that back here, the floor itself is effectively flat. So even if you move over into that middle position, still pretty comfortable there, and an adult can sit there. So there is room for you there. It really is a useful place for family buyers back here. And like I said in the front seat, it's also functional. One of the big features of the Kia Sportage is the way that it drives and handles on Australian roads. It's incredibly comfortable. And it's functional on Australian roads regardless of how bad the road surface. And we do know that if you head into rural areas, off the beaten track a little bit, you are going to encounter roads that aren't as good as those in the city. So that is a really big factor for the judges. The other thing that I think is really worth noting about the way the Sportage drives is that it's that case across the board. We're testing the diesel engine here, but there's a petrol engine, there's two-wheel drive, there's all-wheel drive. And we, of course, over the course of the last 12 months, have tested the Sportage in a variety of conditions. We've driven them in torrential rain, we've driven them on unsealed roads, in town, on the highway, out of town. We've even taken this car up to the snow for a shoot of one of the TV episodes. It was incredibly slippery and a little bit treacherous up there, and that shows that the all-wheel drive system then comes into its own. So we really have put the Sportage through its paces over the last 12 months. It really is little wonder that the judges are as impressed with the Sportage as they are in 2022.
To win Drive Car of the Year, first the car has to be selected as a finalist, it then has to win its category, and then it has to win the most number of votes from the judges for the overall award. While the out there styling might not appeal to everyone, there's no doubt the Kia Sportage ticks all the right boxes. It's roomy, it's comfortable, and it has a long list of standard technology.
One big thing for me about this Sportage is quite a simple element, and that is just size. For a mid-size SUV, this Sportage is relatively large. It's bigger than the previous generation model, and you'll notice it most particularly in the second row. And if you're going to buy this car as a family vehicle, you're going to be putting baby seats in, you're going to be throwing your friends in the back from time to time, the kids are getting bigger all the time, that will pay dividends. I've jumped in the back of this thing quite a few times with a variety of drivers in the driver's seat, and the amount of legroom on offer and headroom, even though we do have a sunroof in this model, both of those are quite impressive. And the interior overall, aside from size, is really nice. There are a lot of nice materials around the place, but Kia thankfully haven't forgotten about practicality. There are nice little storage things around the place. There are lots of USB points, something that a modern family will absolutely appreciate. And it just makes this car really nice to live with on the daily grind during the week and all those important things. And it leaves this Sportage feeling perfectly suited for the modern day family and everyday usage, which I think is really important.
The Kia Sportage is available from $32,445 before on-road costs, right up to $52,370 before on-road costs for the range topper. You know, when we test as many vehicles as we do at Drive over the course of a year, it's easy to forget how comprehensive something like the Drive Car of the Year Awards program really is. It's a full team of the Drive journalists. It's hundreds of cars over the course of 12 months, but then it all comes down to a week of testing for Drive Car of the Year, but there's also an extra week of testing for the off-roaders, and then another week of testing for all the electric vehicles as well. This is a truly comprehensive exercise to get down to one vehicle. And of course, the Kia Sportage, well, it really is a worthy winner of the overall award for 2022 Drive Car of the Year. There's a whole host of factors that make this vehicle as impressive as it is. Of course, there's safety and technology inclusions, and it's bang up to date, but also There's the fact that this is a really high quality vehicle to drive on Australian roads. It's got genuine Australian input into the ride and handling tune, and that means it's enjoyable to drive on our local road surfaces, which in many ways are unique to Australia. There's absolutely no doubt that this is a worthy winner of the 2022 Drive Car of the Year Awards. Of course, don't forget to hit like if you've enjoyed this video. Click on subscribe so you can stay up to date with all of our latest video content and the full review for the Kia Sportage, all of the Drive Car of the Year finalists, and every other vehicle we road test at Drive is at Drive.com.au.